As you come into the queue, please type your full name and your email address in the chat and send it to FPMC. Type your full name and your email address in the chat and send it to FPLC. Victor, let me have you to please remove your hat.
Okay. ¿Sí?
Y que escribas tu nombre y tu
All right. Miss Ida, do you want to see if anyone needs interpreting services? You're on mute. Miss Ida, you're on mute.
Oh, I'm sorry, Your Honor. Yes, Victor needs an interpreter, I think.
Okay, let's go ahead and do his first. Do you know what page he is on?
No.
Mr.
Victor,
Prosecutor.
¿cuál es su apellido, Victor?
Mr. Prosecutor.
Yes, Judge.
I was just gonna tell you, most of the people are physically there at the courthouse.
Mhm.
Unless there's some attorneys, I can handle them because it just streamlines, because one of us is just sitting there looking at the other.
Your
So
Honor,
if you just want to turn your video off, if there's an attorney, I can chime you back in, but I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, Your Honor. And I don't know if you were making a statement because you didn't want to look at me or.
No, then you leave your video on. I just wanted you to know I will knock out those in the queue. Then I will knock out those in the courtroom. But if there's an attorney involved, I would call you in for that. If you want to go ahead and go to a breakout room for them, then I can take care of the rest. That's the point.
Either way is fine with me, Judge. I'm here.
Okay, all right. Let's deal, Miss Ida, let's deal with the gentleman that you have. His name is
Victor, I think it's Victor Cararino. He's on page 4, at the bottom of page 4.
I see that he has been charged with no insurance and driving without a valid license. What is his plea to both charges?
Señor Víctor, usted lo acusan por no tener seguro y por manejar sin una licencia válida. ¿Cómo se declara el cargo? Prende su micrófono y déjenos saber.
Oh,
¿Cómo se declara?
culpable.
Guilty.
How old is he?
¿Cuántos años tiene?
20.
20.
Do you understand that you're entering a guilty plea to the no insurance and the driving without a valid license charge?
Usted entiende que está declarando culpable al cargo de no seguro y de no tener una licencia válida de conducir. ¿Entendió eso?
Sí.
Yes.
It is your intention to enter a guilty plea to both charges.
¿Usted lo que quiere hacer es declararse culpable a los dos cargos? Conteste, pues.
Sí.
Yes.
Does he understand that he's entering this plea without the assistance of a lawyer?
Usted entiende que se está declarando a estos cargos sin asesoramiento de un abogado. ¿Entendió eso? Señor, tiene que contestar las preguntas. ¿Entendió que no tiene un abogado ahora que lo está
Sí,
representando? Yes, I understand.
Ask him, is he entering this plea freely and voluntarily?
¿Se está declarando de esta manera por su propia voluntad y libremente?
Sí.
Yes.
Let him know the total fine amount is $1,340.
Damn.
La multa completa de los dos cargos es $1,340.
I just heard something that I know I should not hear in court and on audio. So I'm going to ask you all not to express anything. Understand everything that's taking place is in court and on audio.
Okay, por favor,
Of yourself and of other people.
reprímase de decir algún tipo de comentarios, que se acaba de decir una palabra que no se debe decir en el tribunal, pues se está grabando y también porque estamos en vivo. Cualquier comentario que tenga, por favor, resérveselo a sí mismo y no lo esté diciendo aquí en la audiencia, por favor.
Oh, no fui yo.
It wasn't me.
No, yo no.
Mr. Victor is saying that it wasn't him, the one who made the comment, Your Honor.
I know it was not him.
Sé que no fue usted, pero por favor, que nadie alrededor, si están con usted, o se salen del cuarto, o que no comenten nada de esto en este momento, porque todo se está grabando.
Okay.
Okay.
Is he able to pay the $1,340 within 2 weeks, or does he need a longer period of time?
¿Usted puede pagar los $1,340 a más tardar en 2 semanas o necesita más tiempo?
Necesito más tiempo.
I need more time.
Tell him he will be placed on probation for 12 months.
Lo van a poner en libertad vigilada por 12 meses.
Let him know that 2 months of his probation is mandatory.
2 meses de esos 12 meses son obligatorios.
After 2 months, if the fine is paid as well as his probation fees, his probation can end.
Después de los 2 meses, si usted ha pagado toda la multa completa y ha pagado el costo de libertad vigilada, que es un costo adicional por mes, entonces se le acaba la libertad vigilada. Si no ha pagado todo, entonces va a seguir en libertad vigilada hasta que complete de pagar todo.
Ask him, has he typed his full name and email address in the chat?
Usted puso su nombre completo, su dirección y correo electrónico en el chat.
Oh, no, aún no lo pongo, ya lo pongo.
Póngalo donde dice chat, apriete chat y luego lo va a escribir y se lo va a mandar a AFPMC. Su nombre completo y su correo electrónico, por favor.
Okay.
Okay.
And Ms. Ida, can you ask him to repeat his email address and say it to you so you can tell it to us in English?
Ok, no me puede decir su correo electrónico, pero dice letra por letra para yo escribirlo.
Sí, es letra por letra, ¿lo digo?
Bueno, dígame, ¿cuál es su correo electrónico?
Es victor.ca,
Ok, Víctor.caca
1234
1234
@icloud.com.
iCloud.com. Ok, entonces eso es Víctor.caca 1234 iCloud.com, ¿correcto?
Sí,
Ok, it is Victor, Victor, dot caca 1234 at iCloud.com.
Okay. Do we have that, Miss Payton?
Yes, we have it.
Okay.
Okay.
Let him know that we will send him his plea form to which he will enter a guilty plea.
Le van a mandar por el correo electrónico, le va a llegar el documento donde tiene que poner que se declara culpable y se lo devuelve después que lo firme y ponga que se declara culpable, se lo devuelve al mismo sitio donde se lo mandaron.
He will receive this by close of business tomorrow.
Se lo van a entregar a más tardar cuando se termine la jornada mañana.
He will also be provided with information regarding setting up his interview with probation.
Y también le va a mandar información de cómo va usted a programar su entrevista con libertad vigilada.
Ask him, does he have any questions?
¿Tiene alguna pregunta?
sí, con lo de los pagos no lo entendí bien. ¿Cómo? Entonces, ¿cuánto tiempo tengo que pagar?
About the payments, I quite didn't understand everything. When do I have to pay?
When he meets with probation, they will outline to him his payment schedule.
Cuando usted se reúna con la gente de libertad vigilada, le van a explicar el plan de pagos para que usted vaya pagando cuando ellos le digan.
Oh, okay.
Ok,
Tell him he can disengage from the call.
ya se puede retirar de la sesión.
Okay, gracias.
Thank you.
Let's go next to Akia Kalote.
Yes, Your Honor, I'm sorry, I'm here. I guess Caluet.
It's Calloway. What is your plea to the driving on suspended registration and no insurance, young lady?
Not guilty.
Okay, do you want me to keep this case in Forest Park or do you want it to be bound over to Clayton County?
Is there a difference there? I really don't know.
There is. If it stays in Forest Park, you're eligible for a bench trial in front of a judge. If it is bound over to Clayton County, you're eligible to have a jury trial where a jury will determine your guilt or your innocence.
Then I'll keep it at Forest Park.
All right, Ms. Green, she's entering a not guilty plea. Her case will remain here in Forest Park. She's waived her right to a jury trial. Young lady, have you typed your name and email address in the chat?
Yes, sir, but I'll redo it just to make sure that you got it. I did it, but
All right, Ms. Green or Ms. Yates, can we confirm that we have her information? Young lady, you will receive your plea form through your email no later than close of business tomorrow. If you will please enter a not guilty plea and send it back, and thereafter you will receive your reset court date. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir. You said you'll send it to my
They're going to
email.
send it to your email address, so it's important that we have it. Miss Payton, do we have this young lady's email address?
I do not see it yet, Your Honor.
Oh,
All right,
it's
let
in,
me have-
I did it in the wrong one then. I'm sorry. Somebody sent to,
Send it to FPMC in the chat.
okay, hold on. Let me go back out. I'm sorry. That's why I wasn't sure. I think I messaged the wrong one.
Yes, we have it. Miss Yates has it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
They do have it. All right, young lady, you can disengage from the call. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Next will be the young person that has, is it S. Anthony by their name?
It's Anthony.
Yes. Is that your last name?
Last name Goolsby.
All right, let me find you. What is your plea to the charge, young man?
Nolo.
All right, do you understand that by entering into the NOLO plea that you're doing this without the assistance of a lawyer?
Yes.
And do you also understand that by entering into the plea that you are waiving your right to a trial?
Yes.
Are you entering into the plea, young man, freely and voluntarily?
Yes.
All right. And do you believe it is in your best interest to enter into the plea?
Yeah. Yes.
Is Mr. Goolsby eligible for a NOLO plea?
Yes, he is, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Goolsby, your NOLO plea will be accepted by the court. The fine amount is $260, young man. Can that be paid in 2 weeks, or do you need a longer period of time?
I can pay it within 2 weeks.
All right, have you typed your name and email address in the chat?
Yes, sir.
All right, do we have Mr. Goolsby's information?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Goolsby, you will receive your plea form by close of business tomorrow. Once you have sent that back, you then will receive your 2-week agreement. Make sure payment is paid within 2 weeks, young man, okay?
Thank you.
Do you have any questions?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. You can disengage from the call.
All right. Take care.
I think that takes care of everyone who has their video turned on. I see 2 other people, but their video is not turned on, which is Camilla Cox and Sydney Rouse. Ms. Rouse? Unmute your device, young lady.
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I think they the officer put the wrong name on the last name on the citation.
So how are they on our docket?
Reyes, Sydney Reyes.
Okay. All right. Is your name Rouse or Reyes, young lady?
Rouse, Rouse.
Okay. Is your date of birth May 4th, 1996?
Correct.
Okay. You're charged with a no insurance charge. What is your plea? Not guilty, guilty, or nolo contendere?
Nolo.
Is she eligible for a nolo plea?
Yes, she is.
Do you understand that by entering into the nolo plea, young lady, you're doing this without the assistance of a lawyer?
Yes, sir.
And do you also understand that by entering into the plea that you are waiving your right to a trial?
Yes, sir.
Are you entering into the plea, young lady, freely and voluntarily?
Yes, sir.
And do you believe it is in your best interest to enter into the nolo plea?
Yes, sir.
Young lady, the court will accept your nolo plea to the no insurance charge. The fine amount is $640. Are you able to satisfy that in 2 weeks, or do you need a longer period of time?
I will need a longer period of time.
Young lady, you will be placed on probation for 12 months. 2 months of your probation will be mandatory. After 2 months, if you've paid the sum of $640, your probation can end. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Can you please ensure that you comply with all terms and conditions? Because if not, they will bring you back in front of the court on a probation revocation calendar. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any questions you'd like to ask me regarding the disposition of your case?
No, sir.
All right, thank you, young lady. You're free to disengage. The next person is Camila Cox.
How you doing?
I'm fine. You're charged with failing to stop at a stop sign. What is your plea? Is it not guilty, guilty, or nolo contendere?
Nolo contendere.
Can you all tell me if Ms. Cox is available for a nolo plea?
is eligible.
All right. Ms. Cox, do you understand that by entering into the NOLO plea, you're doing this without the assistance of a lawyer?
Yes.
Do you also understand that by entering into the plea that you're waiving your right to a trial?
Yes.
Are you entering into the plea freely and voluntarily?
Yes.
And do you believe it is in your best interest to enter into the NOLO plea?
Yes.
Young lady, the court will accept your NOLO plea to the charge. The fine is $175. Are you able to satisfy that in 2 weeks, or do you need a longer period of time?
Yes, I can satisfy it within 2 weeks.
Have you typed your name and email address in the chat?
Yes.
Do we have Ms. Cox's information?
I do not see it under mine. Can you check, Miss? Yes, I don't have it. Miss Cox, can you give that to me, please?
Yes, it's Camellia, Camillia, Cox, COX @hotmail.com.
Okay, thank you.
By close of business tomorrow, you will receive your plea form to which you will enter a NOLO plea, and thereafter you will receive your 2-week agreement. Please make sure that you have the sum of $175 paid within the 2-week time frame. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
Young lady, do you have any questions?
No.
All right, well, thank you, and you can disengage from the call.
Okay.
Does that take care of everyone in the queue?
Yes, sir, it does.
All right, Ms. Ida, let's you and I go ahead and knock out, along with Mr. Andreas, if we need him, the master calendar. All right, Ms. Green, are you able to determine anyone that may need interpreting services that is physically there in the courthouse?
For the most part, yes, a few of them walked in while I was handling stuff online, but the first person, Elsa Elgar Morgan, will need Spanish services.
Okay, thank you. If you can please call that person forward.
Miss Ada, can you sound?
Miss Ada, you're on mute. Miss Ada, you're on mute.
God, I don't like that. Miss Elsa Marina Aguilar Morgan, por favor, acérquese al podio. Elsa Aguilar.
Sí.
Ok, buenas tardes.
Young lady,
Okay,
you are
Jonah.
charged with driving without a valid license.
A usted la acusa por manejar sin una licencia válida, señorita.
What is your plea to that charge? Is it not guilty, guilty, or nolo contendere?
¿Cómo se declara el cargo? ¿Culpable, no lo disputo o no culpable?
No lo discuto.
¿Cómo?
No lo discuto.
No, Your Honor.
Tell her she's not eligible for a nolo because she does not have a license. So she'd have to enter, I'm sorry, a guilty or a not guilty plea.
Debido a que usted no tiene una licencia, no califica para que se pueda declarar nulo. O sea que sus únicas opciones son culpable o no culpable. ¿Cómo se va a declarar?
Culpable.
Guilty.
She's also charged with failure to yield. What is her plea to that charge?
También le acusan por no ceder el paso. ¿Cómo se declara a ese cargo? Tiene que hablar un poquito más fuerte porque no la puedo oír.
Culpable.
Guilty.
Does she understand that by entering into the guilty plea, she's doing so without the assistance of a lawyer?
Usted entiende que declararse culpable aquí lo está haciendo sin asesoramiento de un abogado. ¿Entendió eso?
Sí.
Yes.
Are you entering this plea freely and voluntarily?
¿Se está declarando de esta manera por su propia libertad y por su propia voluntad y libremente?
Sí.
Yes.
And do you believe it is in your best interest to enter into the guilty plea?
¿Y usted considera que lo que más le conviene es declararse culpable?
Sí.
Yes.
Let her know the total fine is $915 for the 2 offenses.
La multa total son de $915 por los 2 delitos.
Is she able to pay that in 2 weeks, or does she need a longer period of time?
¿Usted puede pagar eso a más tardar en 2 semanas o necesita más de 2 semanas para pagarlo?
En 2 semanas.
2 weeks.
All right. Let her know that she will be given a plea form in which she will enter a guilty plea, and then she will be given a 2-week agreement and ensure that she complies.
Ok, le van a dar un documento para que ponga cómo se declara culpable, luego le van a también a dar un documento para que haga el pago, y debe seguir las instrucciones para hacer ese pago y tiene a más tardar 2 semanas para pagar la multa y tiene que cumplir con eso.
Ok, gracias.
Ok, thank you.
Next is Ari Ahmed.
Awid Mohammed Ahmed, FTA, Your Honor.
Thank you. Next is Maria Alberto Perez.
Maria Perez,
María Pérez,
FTA, Your Honor.
Thank you. That is at 126. Next is Antonia Andres Escobar. Andrade Escobar.
Antonia Andrade Escobar, Giselle.
FTA, Your Honor.
Thank you.
That's you?
Next,
Oh, I'm sorry, Your Honor. Here's
Okay, she's here. Señorita Antonia, ¿necesita intérprete?
I'm gonna take her through each charge. Tell her she's been charged with running a red light. What is her plea? Guilty, not guilty, or nolo contendere?
Se le acusan por pasarse un semáforo en luz roja. ¿Cómo se declara? ¿Culpable, no culpable o nolo? Y por favor hable alto porque no la puedo oír.
No lo contendré.
No lo contendere.
Judge, I believe she said that she did not need the interpreter.
Oh, I couldn't hear her, sorry.
It's okay.
She's also charged with driving on a permit, while allowing, she's driving on an improper license. What class license does she have?
What does it say? A learner's permit.
Ask her, when does she plan on upgrading to a class C?
Her license, right? As soon as possible. Probably like in the
Speak
next-
loud so he can hear you.
Probably in like the next 2 weeks.
All right. And what is her plea to driving with an unregistered tag?
Guilty.
So she's entering a nolo to the red light and a guilty to the other 2 charges. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Ask her by entering into the nolo and guilty pleas. Does she understand that she's doing this without the assistance of a lawyer? Does she also understand that by entering into the plea, she's waiving her right to a trial? I need for you to speak up and say yes or no, young lady.
Yes.
Are you entering this plea freely and voluntarily?
Yes.
Court will accept your plea as being freely and voluntarily. The total fine is $625. Is that something that can be paid in 2 weeks, or do you need a longer period of time?
Period of time.
Excuse me?
Longer period of time.
All right, you will be placed on probation for 12 months to pay the sum of $625. Your probation will end the moment that sum is paid. Do you understand that? Every month that you're on probation, you will have to pay a monthly supervision fee. And of course, if you violate your term, they can bring you back in front of the court on a probation revocation calendar. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
Do you have any questions?
No.
All right, if you'll please have a seat, they will give you your probation information, and good luck to you.
Just, thank you.
All right, ma'am.
Next is Daniel Baker.
Daniel Baker,
You'll fill out this information. for-
Daniel Baker, FTA, Your Honor.
Sign.
Thank you. Next is Neanthony Bell.
Yes. Bell. She's coming, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Bell, you've been charged with failure to yield. What is your plea, young lady? Guilty, not guilty, or nolo contendere?
No long.
Is she eligible for a nolo plea? Young lady, do you understand that by entering into the nolo plea, you're doing so without the assistance of a lawyer?
Yes.
And do you also understand that by entering into the plea that you are waiving your right to a trial?
Yes.
Are you entering into the plea, young lady, freely and voluntarily?
Yes.
Young lady, the court will accept your plea. The fine amount is $175. Are you able to satisfy that today within 2 weeks, or do you need a longer period of time?
Yes, I can satisfy that.
Okay, they're going to give you your plea form to which you will enter a no-low plea today, and then you will be given a 2-week agreement, and please make sure that you've made payment within the 2-week time frame. Do you understand that?
Yes,
All right, thank you.
thank you.
Yeah.
Next is Zakiya Bell or Zakiya Bell.
Zakiya Bell, she's here, Your Honor.
Thank you. Young lady, you're charged with driving on suspended license. What is your plea? Guilty, not guilty, or no low contendere?
Not guilty.
All right, thank you. Do you want me to keep this case here in Forest Park where you're eligible for a bench trial, or would you prefer that it be bound over to Clayton County where you can have a jury trial?
Stay here.
All right, she is waiving her right to a jury trial. She's entered a not guilty plea, and her case will remain here in Forest Park. And when you come back to court, young lady, please be able to show that your license was not in suspension at the time. Do you understand that? All right, they will give you your not guilty plea form, and good luck to you.
Yeah.
Next is Ramaraya Betts.
Ramaraya Betts, FTA, Your Honor.
FTA. Next is Chandra Laquise Blake.
Chandra Blake, FTA, Your Honor.
Thank you. Next is Ayasha Bressendorf.
Last name Bergsendorf. Is that you, ma'am? Okay, she's here.
Young lady, you were charged with running a red light. What is your plea? Guilty, not guilty, or no low contendere?
Guilty.
Do you understand that by entering into the guilty plea that you're doing this without the assistance of a lawyer?
Yeah.
And do you also understand that by entering into the plea that you're waiving your right to a trial?
Yeah.
Are you entering into the plea, young lady, freely and voluntarily?
Said not guilty.
You said not guilty. Okay. Do you want this case to stay here in Forest Park, or do you want it to be bound over to Clayton County where you're eligible for a jury trial?
You can stay here.
All right, she is waiving her right to a jury trial. This case will be reset for a bench trial here in Forest Park. They will give you your plea form, enter a not guilty plea, and then you'll get your new court date. Do you understand that? All right, thank you. If you'll have a seat.
You're good to go.
Next is Kanisha Clark.
Kanisha Clark. Kanisha Clark, FTA, Your Honor.
FTA. Next is Anthony Cooper.
Cooper, last name Cooper, FTA.
FTA. Next is Sabrina Davenport.
She's here.
Oh.
How you doing, Ms. Davenport? You've been charged with 3 offenses, and you can enter a different plea to each one if you so choose. Do you understand that?
Yes.
The first charge is no insurance. What is your plea to that?
No.
The second charge is failing to stop at a stop sign. What is your plea to that?
No.
And the third charge is driving on suspended registration. What is your plea to that?
No.
You're entering a no-low plea to all charges. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. The total fine amount is $1,600. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Let me tell you the breakdown. On the no insurance is $640, on the stop sign is $200, and on the driving on suspended registration is $760. I'm gonna reduce that charge to expired registration so it does not suspend your license. Do you understand that?
Yes.
You will be placed on probation for 12 months. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Your probation will end the moment the fine is paid. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Now, 2 months, I'm sorry, 2 months of your probation is mandatory because of the no insurance charge. Do you understand that?
Yes.
So after 2 months, once the sum of $1,600 is paid, your probation can end. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Every month that you're on probation, you will have to pay a monthly supervision fee. Do you understand that?
Yes.
And do you have any questions?
No questions.
All right, they will give you your plea form. You will enter a NOLO plea, and then they will provide you with your probation information. Do you understand that?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Next is Nicholas Davis.
Nicholas Davis, FTA, Your Honor.
Thank you. Next is Stephanie Davis.
There is a Stephanie Davis, she's coming.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Davis, you were charged with 3 different offenses. If you'll tell me what your plea is to each. The first one is no insurance. What is your plea to that?
Hello.
Excuse me?
Hello.
The second one is driving on suspended registration. What is your plea to that?
Hello.
And the last one is an unregistered vehicle. What is your plea to that?
Hello.
Judge Freeman,
Yes.
she's not eligible for the NOLO plea for the insurance charge.
All right, young lady, you'd have to enter a guilty or a not guilty plea. It sounds like that you've pled NOLO to a suspendable offense within the last 5 years. Is that correct, Ms. Yates?
That's correct.
Okay. So you'd have to enter a guilty or a not guilty plea. Do you understand that?
She's guilty.
So you're changing your plea to guilty to all 3?
No.
All right, well, you're not eligible for it on the suspended registration and the no insurance. So are you entering a NOLO plea on the unregistered tag?
Yes.
Okay. So she's entering a guilty plea on the suspended registration and the no insurance and a NOLO plea on the unregistered tag. Is that correct,
Yes.
Ms. Davis? Do you understand that by entering into the guilty and NOLO pleas respectfully, you're doing so without the assistance of a lawyer?
Yes.
Do you also understand that by entering into the plea that you are waiving your right to a trial?
Yes.
Are you entering into the plea, young lady, freely and voluntarily?
Yes.
The fine on the suspended registration is $740. The fine on the no insurance is $640, and the unregistered tag charge is $200. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Total fine is $1,580. Do you understand that?
Yes.
You will be placed on probation for 12 months unless you need a longer period of time. Do you need longer than 12 months?
No.
All right. 2 months of your probation will be mandatory. After 2 months, if you have paid the fine and stayed current with your monthly probation fees, your probation can end. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Do you have any questions?
No.
All right, thank you. If you will have a seat, they'll give you further information. Sharonda Dotson.
She's here, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ms. Dotson, you've been charged with permitting an unlicensed person to operate a vehicle. What is your plea to that?
No.
Do you understand that by entering into the NOLO plea, you're doing this without the assistance of a lawyer?
Yes.
Do you also understand that by entering into the plea that you are waiving your right to a trial? Do you understand that? Are you entering into the plea freely and voluntarily?
Yes.
Is she eligible for a NOLO plea?
Yes.
All right, young lady, the court will accept your NOLO plea. The fine amount is $285. Are you able to pay that in 2 weeks, or do you need to pay it while being on probation?
Okay, that's what it is.
All right, you will be given a 2-week agreement to pay the sum of $285. Do you understand that? And your NOLO plea has been accepted.
Yes.
Thank you. Kenyatta Dunlap.
She's here, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Just stand by. Man, so, sign date, put your address in my.
Ms. Dunlap, you're charged with operating a vehicle while texting. What is your plea to that? Guilty, not guilty, or nolo contendere?
Nolo.
You understand that by entering into the nolo plea, you're doing this without the assistance of a lawyer?
Yes, sir.
And do you also understand that by entering into the plea that you're waiving your right to a trial?
Yes, sir.
Are you entering into the plea freely and voluntarily?
Yes, sir.
The court will accept your nolo plea to the charge, young lady. Is she eligible for a nolo plea?
Yes.
All right, the court will accept your nolo plea. The fine amount is $50. Are you able to satisfy that in 2 weeks, or do you need a longer period of time?
I'm able to.
All right. You will receive a plea form today to which you will enter a nolo plea, and then they will give you a 2-week agreement. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you so much. If you'll please have a seat. Daryl Edwards.
Daryl Edwards, he's here, Your Honor.
Is this his second or third offense?
Yes.
Which one, second or third?
Third.
Mr. Edwards, this is your third offense of driving on suspended license. Do you understand that? What is your plea to the charge? Guilty, not guilty, or nolo contendere? You understand that by entering into the guilty plea that you're doing this without the assistance of a lawyer? Do you also understand that by entering into the plea that you are waiving your right to a trial?
Yes, sir.
Are you entering into the plea, sir, freely and voluntarily?
Yes, sir.
The court will accept your guilty plea to the third offense, sir. You will be placed on probation for 12 months. 6 months of your probation will be mandatory. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
While on probation, you will pay a fine of $2,110. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Please understand that if you violate the terms of your probation can be revoked. Do you understand that?
Sir.
Do you have any questions? All right, thank you, sir. If you'll please have a seat, they'll give you your plea form and your probation information. Next is Guillermo Ikube Roku.
Kube Roku. FTA, Your Honor.
Thank you. Next is Damian Ellis.
Last name Ellis, Damian Ellis, FTA.
Next is Francisco Escobar Hernandez.
He's here.
Oh,
And he-
Francisco,
Zaida, yes.
Francisco Escobar Hernández, por favor, acérquese al podio.
Let's Senor Hernandez know he's been charged with running a red light.
Señor Hernández, lo acusan por pasarse un semáforo en rojo.
Yes.
Yes.
And he's also been charged with driving without a valid license.
Y también lo acusa por manejar sin licencia válida. ¿Entendió eso?
Sí.
What is
Yes.
his plea to both offenses, guilty or not guilty?
¿Cómo se declaran a los dos delitos? ¿Culpable o no culpable?
Culpable.
Guilty.
Does he understand that by entering into the guilty plea, he's doing this without the assistance of a lawyer?
Al declararse culpable hoy aquí, usted está haciendo esto sin el asesoramiento de un abogado. ¿Entendió eso?
Sí.
Yes.
Is he entering into the plea freely and voluntarily?
¿Se está declarando a estos cargos libre y voluntariamente?
Sí.
Yes.
And does he believe it is in his best interest to enter into the guilty plea?
¿Y usted considera que declararse culpable es lo que más le conviene?
Sí.
Yes.
Let him know the total fine is $960. Can that be paid in 2 weeks?
La multa por los dos cargos son 960. ¿Lo puede pagar a más tardar de aquí a 2 semanas?
Sí.
Yes.
Let him know he will receive his plea form today, which he will enter he will enter a guilty plea, and then he will receive a 2-week agreement to pay the sum of $960 within 2 weeks.
Ok, le van a dar dos documentos, uno donde usted se va a poner cómo se declara y otro donde usted se compromete. Es un contrato en que usted va a pagar la suma de 960 a más tardar en 2 semanas. ¿Entendió?
Sí.
Ok, yes.
Ask him, does he have any questions?
¿Tiene preguntas para el juez?
Ninguna.
No, none.
And if you'll please have a seat. Next is Antonio Fowler.
He's here, Your Honor. He's coming.
Thank you.
Your address in front of you, understand?
Mr. Fowler, you're charged with driving without a valid license, sir. Do you understand that? What is your plea to that charge? Is it not guilty or guilty?
Guilty, sir.
You understand that by entering into the guilty plea that you're doing this without the assistance of a lawyer?
Yes, sir.
And do you also understand that by entering into the plea that you are waiving your right to a trial?
Yes, sir.
Are you entering into the plea, sir, freely and voluntarily?
Yes, sir.
Have you ever had a driver's license?
Yes, sir.
All right, and what happened? It expired or it's suspended?
Expired, different state.
All right, and when do you plan on getting a license here in Georgia?
Soon. I was waiting on my birth certificate to come in and then my social security card, then I can go right down and get one.
All right, the fine for this, sir, is $760. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Can that be paid in 2 weeks, or do you need a longer period of time?
Longer period.
All right, sir, you will be placed on probation for 12 months. Your probation will end the moment this is paid, and please comply, because if you violate your probation, you can be brought back before the court on a revocation calendar. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any questions? All right, sir, if you will have a seat, they will give you your plea form. You will enter a guilty plea, and then they will give you a 2-week they'll give you your probation information. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Next is Tamlin Frazier.
He's here, Your Honor.
Mr. Frazier, what is your plea for failure to stop at a stop sign, sir? Can you tell me if Mr. Frazier is eligible for a NOLO plea?
Yes.
Mr. Frazier, do you understand that by entering into the NOLO plea, you're doing this without the assistance of a lawyer?
Yes, sir.
Sir, do you also understand that by entering into the plea that you're waiving your right to a trial?
Yes, sir.
Sir, are you entering into the plea freely and voluntarily?
Yes, sir.
Sir, the fine amount is $200. Can that be paid in 2 weeks, or do you need a longer period of time?
Within 2 weeks.
Sir, you will be given a plea form to which you will enter a NOLO plea, and then you will be given a 2-week agreement giving you 2 weeks to pay the sum of $200. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Sir, do you have any questions?
No, sir.
All right, thank you so much. Madeline Garduno.
Madeline Garduno,
Madeline Garduno.
FTA.
Thank you. Next is Karen Gomez Santos.
She's here, Your Honor.
¿Necesita intérprete, señorita Karen? Okay, she does need an interpreter, Your Honor.
She has been charged with the leash law violation. What is her plea? Guilty, not guilty, or nolo contendere?
A usted le acusan por no tener el perro amarrado. ¿Cómo se declara? ¿Culpable, no culpable o nolo?
Culpable.
Guilty.
Do you understand that by entering into the guilty plea, you're doing this without the assistance of a lawyer?
¿Usted entiende que declararse culpable aquí lo está haciendo sin el asesoramiento de un abogado? ¿Entendió eso?
Sí.
Yes.
Do you also understand that by entering into the plea that you are waiving your right to a trial?
También usted renuncia al derecho a tener un juicio cuando se declara culpable. ¿Entendió eso?
Sí.
Yes.
Are you entering into the plea freely and voluntarily?
¿Se está declarando de esta manera por su propia voluntad y libremente?
Sí.
Yes.
Young lady, the fine amount is $375.
La multa son $375.
Are you able to pay that in 2 weeks, or do you need a longer period of time?
¿Usted lo puede pagar a más tardar en 2 semanas o necesita más de 2 semanas?
Sí, en 2 semanas.
In 2 weeks, yes.
Your guilty plea has been accepted. You will be given a 2-week agreement to pay. Please make sure that you comply. Do you understand that?
Se le acepta su declaración de culpable y le van a dar un acuerdo para que usted se comprometa a pagar más tardar en 2 semanas. Asegúrese que cumple con esto. ¿Entendió eso?
Okay.
Okay.
Next is Señorita Itzel Margarita Gonzalez Loredo.
Okay. Itzel Margarita González Loredo, si se encuentra presente, acérquese al podio, por favor.
She's here.
Okay.
Let her know that she's been charged with driving without a valid license. What is her plea to that? Guilty or not guilty?
La acusan por manejar sin tener una licencia válida. ¿Cómo se declara? ¿Culpable o no culpable? Guilty.
She's also charged with the move over violation. What is her plea to that?
Y también la acusan por la ley de que no se apartó cuando hubo un carro, un vehículo de emergencia. ¿Cómo se declara a este cargo? Guilty.
Is she entering into the plea freely and voluntarily to both offenses?
¿Se está declarando estos dos delitos por su propia voluntad y libremente?
Sí.
Yes.
One offense is driving without a valid license, and the second offense is a move over violation.
Uno de los delitos es manejar sin licencia y el otro es por no apartarse, hacerse un lado cuando hay un vehículo de emergencia.
Entiendo.
I understand.
Let her know the total fine is $1,045.
La multa por los dos cargos son $1,045.
Entiendo.
Is she
I
able to
understand.
pay that in 2 weeks, or does she need a longer period of time?
¿Lo puede pagar a más tardar en 2 semanas o necesita más de 2 semanas?
No.
¿Perdón? ¿Necesita más de 2 semanas o 2 semanas es suficiente? Hable duro porque no la oigo.
Puedo pagar ahora mismo. Ahora mismo.
I can pay it right now.
All right, tell her she will be directed to the clerk's office to pay the sum of $1,045 momentarily, and her guilty plea has been accepted.
Se acepta su declaración de culpable. En unos segundos le van a indicar cuándo tiene que ir a pagar a la oficina de ahí del tribunal. Entonces espere que le indiquen eso, los $1,045.
Está bien.
Okay, that's fine.
Miss,
Next is
I'm sorry.
Kevin. Go ahead.
Miss Otter,
Yes.
can you explain to her that we will send her a text message with the link to pay it by tomorrow?
Okay, le van a mandar por texto la liga o el sitio donde tiene que pagarlo, y lo puede pagar mañana, se lo van a mandar para que pague por ahí por esa liga en texto, ¿ok? ¿Entendió?
Pago mañana cuando me llegue el link.
So I will pay tomorrow when I get the link.
That is correct.
Está bien.
Sí, correcto. Ajá. Okay,
Thank you.
gracias.
Okay, Judge, I'm sorry.
Next is Kevin Hernandez Gonzalez.
He's here.
Señor Hernández, ¿necesita intérprete?
He's been charged with driving without a valid license.
Lo acusan por manejar sin licencia.
Sí.
What
Yes.
is the plea to that charge? Is it guilty or not guilty?
¿Cómo se declara el cargo? ¿Culpable o no culpable? Y hable más fuerte porque no lo puedo oír.
Culpable.
Guilty.
Does he understand that by entering into the guilty plea, he's doing this without the assistance of a lawyer?
¿Usted entiende que declararse culpable lo está haciendo sin asesoramiento de un abogado? ¿Entendió eso?
Sí.
Yes.
Does he further understand that by entering into the plea, he's waiving his right to a trial?
También usted renuncia el derecho a tener un juicio cuando se declara culpable. ¿Entendió eso?
Sí.
Yes.
Is he entering into the plea freely and voluntarily?
¿Se está declarando de esta manera por su propia voluntad y libremente?
Sí.
Yes.
Let him know the fine amount is $760. Is he able to pay that in 2 weeks, or does he need a longer period of time?
La multa es de $760. ¿Lo puede pagar a más tardar en 2 semanas o necesita más de 2 semanas?
No, está bien. Si pueden darme el link para hacer el pago mañana, estaría bien.
That's fine. If they can send me the link to make the payment tomorrow, that will be fine.
All right, he will be given a 2-week agreement, and he will be provided with a link to make the payment tomorrow. Is that okay, Ms. Green?
That's cool. That's good, Your Honor.
All right,
Okay.
if you'll give him his plea form and make arrangements for him to make the payment. Next is
Okay.
Tabitha Hill.
Tabitha Hill. FTA, Your Honor.
Next is Adrena Hines.
Ms. Hines, Adrena Hines. FTA, Your Honor.
Thank you. Next is Zaquel Hickson.
Hey, sir.
He's already paid, Your Honor.
Thank you. Next is Jeffrey Hunter.
Paid as well.
Next is Sherrod Jackson.
He's here, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Jackson, you're charged with a failure to yield charge and an unregistered tag on your vehicle. What is your plea to the charge? Guilty, not guilty, or nolo contendere? Do you understand that by entering into the guilty plea, you're doing this without the assistance of a lawyer? And do you also understand that by entering into the plea that you are waiving your right to a trial? Sir, are you entering into the plea freely and voluntarily?
Yes.
Sir, the total fine is $325. Are you able to satisfy that in 2 weeks, or do you need a longer period of time?
Longer period of time.
All right, sir, you will be placed on probation for 12 months. Your probation will end the moment the fine is paid. Do you understand that? You understand that every month that you're on probation, you will have to pay a monthly supervision fee. Do you understand that? Do you understand that? I can't hear you.
Yes.
And do you also understand that by entering into the plea, do you understand that if you violate your probation, you can be brought before the court on a probation revocation calendar? Do you understand that?
Yes.
All right, sir, they will give you your plea form as well as information regarding probation. If you'll please have a seat. Next is Alonzo Johnson.
Okay.
Alonzo Johnson, FTA, Your Honor.
Next is Lakita Johnson.
She's here.
Yes. No.
Hello, Ms. Johnson. You've been charged with impeding traffic flow. What is your plea? Not guilty, guilty, or nolo contendere?
Not guilty, Your Honor.
Thank you. Do you want me to keep this case in Forest Park where you're eligible for a bench trial, or would you prefer that it be bound over to Clayton County where you can have a jury trial?
In Forest Park.
All right, she is waiving her right to a jury trial, and this matter will remain here in Forest Park. If we'll please give her a new court date. Thank you. Henry Jones.
Henry Jones, FTA, Your Honor.
Thank you. Next is Dekaya Lewis.
Dekaya Lewis, FTA.
Next is Markel Levitt.
Hey, sir.
Thank you. Next is Krishna Martin.
We're going to reset her, Your Honor.
Okay. Next is Gabriel Martin.
He's here.
Mr. Martin, what is your plea to the possession of marijuana charge, sir? I can't hear Mr. Martin if he'll speak up.
Hello.
Do you understand? Is he eligible for a nolo plea?
Yes, sir.
You understand that by entering into the nolo plea, you're doing this without the assistance of a lawyer?
Yes, sir.
And do you also understand that by entering into the plea that you're waiving your right to a trial?
Yes, sir.
Are you entering into the plea freely and voluntarily?
Yes, sir.
And do you believe it is in your best interest to enter into the plea? Young man, the fine amount is $180. Are you able to satisfy this in 2 weeks, or do you need a longer period of time?
2 weeks, sir.
All right, if we can please give him his plea form, he's entering a nolo plea, and give him a 2-week agreement. And sir, if you'll have a seat. Omar Martinez.
Omar Martinez.
Omar Martínez, si está presente, por favor, acérquese al podio.
Sign date, put your address and contact.
¿Necesita intérprete?
Sí.
Ok,
Mr.
por favor, hable
Martinez.
fuerte.
You've been charged with driving without a valid license, sir. What is your plea to that?
Señor Martínez, lo acusan por manejar sin licencia válida. ¿Cómo se declara el cargo?
Public.
Culpable, guilty.
You understand that by entering into the guilty plea, you're doing this without the assistance of a lawyer?
Usted entiende que declararse culpable aquí lo está haciendo sin tener el asesoramiento de un abogado. ¿Entendió eso?
Sí.
You
Yes.
also understand that by entering into the plea that you're waiving your right to a trial.
También usted renuncia al derecho a tener un juicio cuando se declara culpable. ¿Entendió eso?
Sí.
Yes.
Are you entering into the plea freely and voluntarily?
¿Se está declarando de esta manera por su propia voluntad y libremente?
Sí.
Yes.
The court will accept your guilty plea to the charge. The fine amount is $760. Are you able to pay that within 2 weeks, or do you need a longer period of time?
El juez acepta su declaración de culpable. La multa son 760. ¿Lo puede pagar a más tardar en 2 semanas o necesita más de 2 semanas para pagarlo?
2 semanas.
2 weeks.
You will be given a plea form, enter a guilty plea, and then they will give you your 2-week agreement, sir, and thank you.
Ok, le van a dar un documento para que se declare culpable, le van a dar un acuerdo para que lo firme y firme para pagar a más tardar en 2 semanas. Gracias.
Next is Christopher McLean.
Christopher McLean, FTA, Your Honor.
Thank you. Next is Timothy Miller.
He's here, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Would you like further? Okay.
Hello, Your Honor.
How are you doing, Mr. Miller? You have 2 different charges, sir. One is following too closely. What is your plea to that? Is it not guilty, guilty, or nolo contendere?
Not guilty.
Sir, do you want me to keep these cases here in Forest Park, or would you prefer that they be bound over to Clayton County where you're eligible for a jury trial?
I would like to be eligible for a jury trial and a lawyer.
Okay, these cases will be bound over to Clayton County. Once they get there, request a lawyer from the judge over there. Do you understand that?
I do, sir.
All right, sir, they're going to give you a plea form, enter a not guilty plea, and then they're going to verify your mailing address because that will be the address that the court notice comes to. Do you understand that?
Yes, I do have one question, Your Honor.
Yes, what is your question?
The citations that I received have my wrong address on them.
And when you get to court over at Clayton County, you can bring that to the attention of that judge, okay?
So it's out of y'all's hands.
Yes, it is.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Just have a seat.
All right.
Demishan Mentor.
Yes, she's here, Your Honor. Give her 1 moment.
Okay.
You want me to print?
Mm-mm. Can she get on her little thing? Give us 1 moment, Your Honor.
That is fine.
Do you want me to enter my real address or the one they got on the table?
Your real address.
Yes.
I don't know. Okay, there we go.
All right, young lady, you're charged with a seatbelt violation. What is your plea? Guilty, not guilty, or nolo contendere? All right. Is she eligible for a nolo plea?
Yes.
Do you understand that by entering into the nolo plea, you're doing this without the assistance of a lawyer? I can't hear you.
Yes.
Okay, and do you also understand that by entering into the plea that you are waiving your right to a trial?
Yes.
Are you entering into the plea freely and voluntarily?
Yes.
Court will accept your nolo plea. There will be no fine this time, and that will conclude the matter. Once you've signed your plea form, a nolo, you're free to go.
Thank you.
Next is Quintavious Mitchell. Let's make sure we get a plea form from her.
Okay, thank you.
Quintavious Mitchell.
FTA, Your Honor.
Thank you. Next is Hong Nguyen.
She's here.
Thank you. Does he need an interpreter?
No, she does not.
Make sure the paperwork, right?
Ms. Nguyen, you were charged with failing to stop at a stop sign. What is your plea to that charge? Is it guilty, not guilty, or nolo contendere?
No, please.
Is she eligible for a nolo plea?
Yes, she is.
Young lady, do you understand that by entering into the no-low plea, you're doing this without the assistance of a lawyer?
Yes.
You also understand that by entering into the plea that you are waiving your right to a trial.
Yes, sir.
Are you entering into the plea freely and voluntarily?
Yes, sir.
The court will accept your no-low plea. The fine amount is $200. Are you able to pay that in 2 weeks, or do you need a longer time to pay?
I can pay in 2 weeks.
All right, they will give you a plea form to which you will enter a no-low plea, and then they will give you a 2-week agreement. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. If you'll please have a seat. Robert Norfleet.
Norfleet, Robert he's here, Your Honor.
Mr. Norfleet, you've been charged with an improper turn. What is your plea to that? Guilty, not guilty, or nolo contendere?
It's gonna be Nolo.
Is he eligible for a nolo plea?
Yes, he is.
Sir, do you understand that by entering into the plea that you're doing this without the assistance of a lawyer?
Yes, sir.
And sir, do you also understand that by entering into the plea that you are waiving your right to a trial?
Yes, sir.
Sir, are you entering into the plea freely and voluntarily?
Yes, sir.
Sir, the court will accept your plea. The fine amount is $175. Are you able to satisfy this within 2 weeks, or do you need a longer period of time?
I'm satisfied.
Okay, sir, they will get your plea form from you today, and they will give you a 2-week agreement to pay. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Sir, do you have any questions?
Nope, not at this time.
Thank you. Jessica Noriega.
Jessica Noriega, si se encuentra presente, por favor, acérquese al podio.
She's here.
Okay. Okay.
Young lady, you've been charged with driving without a valid license. What is your plea, guilty or not guilty?
La acusan por manejar sin licencia. ¿Cómo se declara? ¿Culpable o no culpable?
Culpable.
You're also
Guilty.
charged with failure to maintain lane. What is your plea to that? Guilty, not guilty, or nolo contendere?
También la acusan por no mantener su carril. ¿Cómo se declara el cargo? ¿Culpable, no culpable o no lo discuto?
Culpable.
Guilty.
You've entered a guilty plea to both charges. Do you understand that by entering into the plea, you're doing this without the assistance of a lawyer?
Usted se ha declarado culpable a estos 2 cargos. Usted entiende que esto lo está haciendo sin el asesoramiento de un abogado. ¿Entendió eso?
Sí, entendí.
Do you also
Yes.
understand that by entering into the plea, you're waiving your right to a trial?
También usted renuncia al derecho a tener un juicio cuando se declara culpable. ¿Entendió eso?
Entendí eso.
Yes.
Are you entering into the plea freely and voluntarily?
¿Se está declarando de esta manera por su propia voluntad y libremente?
Sí.
Yes.
Fine amount is $935. Are you able to pay that in 2 weeks, or do you need a longer period of time?
La multa total son $935. ¿Lo puede pagar a más tardar en 2 semanas o necesita más de 2 semanas para pagarlo?
Puedo pagar en 2 semanas.
I can pay in 2 weeks.
All right, you will be given a plea form, enter a guilty plea, and then they will give you a 2-week agreement. Do you have any questions?
Le van a dar un documento para que ponga cómo se declara que se declaró culpable y también le van a dar otro documento que es un acuerdo para cumplir con el pago. ¿Tiene alguna pregunta?
¿Me pueden mandar un text form para poder pagarlo mañana?
Can they send me a text with a link so I can pay it tomorrow?
I will let you work that out with Ms. Green today.
Eso lo va a hacer con la señorita Green ahí para que se lo mande.
Fill this out, make sure you put your email address and phone number. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to the next one. The next one is Lyria Nunez Jaquez.
Nunez Jaquez,
Okay. Lidia Núñez Jaquez.
FTA.
Thank you. Next is Charismacia Oliver.
Charisma Sia Oliver, FTA, Your Honor.
Next is Anthony Onochi.
He's here.
Mr. Onochi, you've been charged with failure to maintain lane. What is your plea? Not guilty, guilty, or nolo contendere?
No.
You understand that by entering into the nolo plea, you're doing this without the assistance of a lawyer?
So did you plead no? Or yes?
And do you also understand that by entering into the plea that you're waiving your right to a trial? Sir, are you entering into the plea freely and voluntarily? All right, sir, the fine amount is $175. Are you able to pay that within 2 weeks, or do you need a longer period of time? Excuse me? Okay, he's entering a nolo plea to which I understand he's eligible. Is that correct? And he's going to pay $175 within 2 weeks. So after he's entered his plea form, please give him a 2-week agreement, okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Ashley Peon, Ashley Peon,
She's already paid.
thank you. Lan Pham,
We reset him because he's gonna need a Vietnamese translator.
Benoit Pimenta,
Reset as well. Oh, I'm sorry.
Hey, Miss
You're,
Green.
okay, hey.
Hey, Judge Freeman, it's Attorney.
hello,
Boyd.
hello there, how are you?
Good.
So you are here for,
Mr. Pimienta, and then I have
Okay.
one other on the calendar,
Yes.
Bailey.
She has Bailey, that's on the old calendar, Your Honor.
okay, and what is your announcement in both of those?
Pre-trial, Your Honor.
Okay,
Although,
I'm gonna let you speak with the prosecutor. He is on the line. If you will just hold on, we will allow you two to talk. You've been taking care of yourself?
yes, sir. How about yourself?
I'm doing wonderful. It's always good to see you.
It is. I miss you.
I know that. All right, Mr. Prosecutor, will we let Andreas know that he has 2 matters to pre-trial?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna keep going, okay? Next is,
Judge, I'm sorry, before you continue on, is there any way that the attorneys can log on separately on their devices and then we can just send them into a
breakout room, absolutely, and that's a great idea. Ms. Green, can you accommodate that? Have the attorneys to log on and then place them in a breakout room with the prosecutor?
Absolutely. I just gave her the link. It's only one attorney, so it has 2
Okay.
cases. But
And she
she's
has
gonna be
2
logged
cases.
on. Mhm. I already said the breakout.
She has a case on each calendar, Andreas.
We got 2 calendars?
Yes,
I didn't know that.
but you knew that. You're just playing with us.
No, he didn't know, Your Honor. So there is the old calendar, the old way, and the new calendar, but they're both for today, Mr. Mary Rose.
Thank you. I appreciate the support.
You're
Absolutely.
welcome.
Next is Mr. Rathod.
He's here, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Noon, Your Honor.
Good morning. You've been charged with running a red light. What is the plea? Not guilty, guilty, or nolo contendere?
Nolo contendere, Your Honor.
Is he eligible for a nolo plea?
Yes, he is.
Sir, do you understand that by entering into the plea, you're doing this without the assistance of a lawyer?
Yes, Your Honor.
And sir, do you also understand that by entering into the plea that you are waiving your right to a trial?
Yes, Your Honor.
Sir, are you entering into the plea freely and voluntarily?
Yes, Your Honor.
Sir, the fine amount is $175. Are you able to pay that in 2 weeks, or do you need a longer period of time?
I can pay that in 2 weeks.
Okay, Ms. Green, if we will give him his plea form and a 2-week agreement.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I have one question? Your Honor, will there be any points on my driving records, and there will be a record of this citation on my?
There will be a record of this citation, but the NOLO plea will make this a non-pointable offense.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Next,
Give me
Laura
1 second.
Reyes.
Give me 1 second to set up the room. Sorry.
Okay, and then next, I'd like to let Ms. Ida make an announcement if there's anyone else that's remaining that needs interpreting services.
¿Hay alguna persona más que necesite intérprete?
I don't know if they can hear you right now, Ms. Ida, because
Oh,
she has the
okay.
computer, yeah, but once she
Okay.
gets back.
Hi, how you doing today?
I'm fine, young lady. How are you doing?
Give us 1 second. Mhm.
Take your time.
We're sending you to room 1, Andres, solicitor.
Gotcha.
Okay, Your Honor, I'm sorry. Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, Ms. Reyes, you're charged with a leash law violation. What is your plea to that? Guilty, not guilty, or nolo contendere?
Guilty, sir.
Do you understand that by entering into the guilty plea, you're doing this without the assistance of a lawyer?
Yes, sir.
And do you also understand that by entering into the plea that you are waiving your right to a trial?
Yes, sir.
Are you entering into the plea freely and voluntarily?
Yes, sir.
Young lady, the fine amount is $375. Are you able to pay that in 2 weeks, or do you need a longer period of time?
I could pay today, Your Honor.
All right, they will direct you to the clerk's office momentarily or give you further instructions, and your guilty plea has been accepted. Please notate that on your plea form. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. If you'll please have a seat.
Have a great day. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next is Whitney. Let's go ahead and let Ms. Ida sound if there's anyone else that needs interpreting services.
¿Hay alguna otra persona que necesite la ayuda de un intérprete? Por favor, póngase de pie para saber si necesita o no.
We have 1 so far. Come on up, sir. Do you guys need interpretive services? Oh, I'm sorry. Keep forgetting that. It's only 1 left.
And what is the name?
Martin Salinas Torres.
Okay, that's on page 22, Your Honor.
That is correct. Let me just be sure about this. So Whitney Rivera is FTA, is that correct, Ms. Green?
Whitney Rivera, that's correct, FTA.
Is Ewart Sabir FTA?
Sabir, last name Sabir, FTA.
All right. Next is Martin Salinas. That's who we're dealing with right now. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right.
Okay.
Ms. Ida, he has 3 different violations. The first one is failure to stop at a stop sign. What is his plea? Guilty, not guilty, or nolo contendere?
Usted tiene 3 cargos. El primero es no pararse en un alto. ¿Cómo se declara? ¿Culpable, no culpable o nolo?
Culpable.
Guilty.
He's also charged with driving on suspended license. What is his plea to that? Guilty, not guilty, or nolo contendere?
También lo acusan por manejar con una licencia suspendida. ¿Cómo se declara? ¿Culpable, no culpable o nolo?
Pues que traigo licencia nomás, para mi persona, para hacer mis mandados, y andaba en un mandado de esos.
I have a license just so that I could run errands, and I was running an errand when I was doing that.
Well, tell him if he had a conditional permit, then he may want to enter a not guilty plea, and he can come to court and provide that to the court at that time.
Si usted entonces estaba manejando con un permiso que tenía limitaciones, entonces lo que puede hacer es declararse no culpable y venir más adelante para que tenga un juicio y compruebe que usted tenía permiso para poder manejar a donde fue.
Does he
¿Entendió?
understand?
Sí, o sea que venía al la Monchi
¿Venía a dónde?
a comprar mi comida,
I was going to buy my food, my lunch.
de las cosas que se
Well,
necesitan.
tell him that we need to handle that in the context of a trial. So we're going to put him down for not guilty. Does he want me to keep the case in Forest Park, or does he want this matter bound over to Clayton County where he's eligible for a jury trial?
Ok, la única forma para poder resolver este caso es que lo pasen para un juicio. Entonces, ¿usted quiere tener un juicio ante un juez para que el caso se quede aquí en Forest Park o quiere un juicio con jurado para que pasen el caso al Tribunal Estatal de Clayton? ¿Qué quiere hacer?
No, me doy culpable.
No, I'm going to plead guilty.
Tell him by pleading guilty, it's going to suspend his conditional license.
Si usted se declara culpable, va a suspender la licencia condicional que tiene ahora.
No, entonces me abro a juicio.
Okay, then I'm going to do the trial.
All right, we'll put him down for not guilty.
Ok, lo vamos a poner para no culpable. ¿Qué juicio? ¿Dónde lo quiere? ¿Lo quiere seguir teniendo aquí en este tribunal o quiere pasar al Tribunal Estatal de Clayton? ¿Qué quiere hacer con el caso?
Aquí.
I'm going to leave it here.
Okay, tell him we'll place him down for not guilty. He's waiving his right to a jury trial and it'll stay here in Forest Park.
Lo vamos a poner que se declaró no culpable para que tenga el juicio. Lo va a tener aquí en el juicio en el tribunal de Forest Park. Usted renuncia a tener un juicio con jurado que sería pasarlo al otro tribunal.
Next is Edwin Sanchez.
Sanchez,
Okay.
last name Sanchez, FTA.
Thank you.
Yeah. but-
Next is Brian Shinholster.
Where's the phone number?
Shinholster, FTA.
Next is Michael Sinkfield.
Sinkfield is here, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Sign it, circle,
Mr. Sinkfield, you've been charged with two different violations. The first one is no insurance. What is your plea to that, sir? Is he eligible for a no-low plea?
Yes, he is.
And the second one is driving on suspended registration. What is your plea to that, sir? Excuse me? All right. You understand that by entering the no-low plea to both offenses, that you're doing this without the assistance of a lawyer? You understand that? Sir, do you also understand that by entering into the plea that you are waiving your right to a trial?
Yes.
Sir, are you entering into the plea freely and voluntarily?
Yes.
All right. Sir, the total fine is $1,380. Are you able to pay that within 2 weeks, or do you need a longer period of time?
Long period of time.
All right, sir, you will be placed on probation for 12 months. 2 months, go ahead.
2 weeks, 2 weeks from when? Today or?
It will be 2 weeks from today. That is correct.
So it'll be due April 4th.
Okay, is that
Yeah, I mean-
Jonesboro?
So do you want to be placed on probation, or you can pay it by April the 4th, sir?
I'll be on probation.
All right, sir, you will be placed on probation for 12 months. 2 months will be mandatory. After 60 days, because of the no insurance charge, once this is paid and you're current with your probation fees, your probation will end. Do you understand that?
Put your, telephone.
Sir, probation does not show on your record unless you violate the terms. Do you understand that? Do you understand that? All right, you will be given a plea form to which you will enter a no-low plea, and then they will give you your probation information. The driving with suspended registration, we're going to reduce down to expired registration. All right, sir, if you'll please have a seat. Ariana Smith,
She's here, Your Honor.
has she spoken with an attorney? Let me get her up here.
Slide all this information down to where you sign. That's what-
How are you doing, Ms. Smith? Have you spoken with an attorney regarding this DUI?
I haven't spoken with one yet.
All right, are you able to hire one, or do you want to see if the court will appoint you one, or would you prefer to represent yourself?
I would like a court appointed lawyer.
All right, they're going to give you a court-appointed application. We're going to have you to fill it out. If you meet the requirements, you will be appointed Michael Stinson, but let us verify your eligibility first, okay? So right now, you will enter a not guilty plea subject to your eligibility for court-appointed counsel. Do you understand that?
Yes.
All right, thank you. We'll go to the next one. Next is Eureka Stevens.
Eureka Stevens, is she? She's here, Your Honor.
Ms. Stevens,
Okay, so you can.
Ms. Stevens, you've been charged with running a red light. What is your plea? Guilty, not guilty, or no low contendere?
Not guilty.
Do you want me to keep the case here in Forest Park, or would you prefer that it be bound over where you're eligible for a jury trial?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Do you want the case to stay in Forest Park, or would you prefer that it be bound over to Clayton County where you're eligible for a jury trial?
Clayton County?
All right, we're going to bind your case over to Clayton County. She's entering a not guilty plea. We'll get a updated address from you, and the next time you receive a court notice, you will not come back here. You will go to Clayton County. Do you understand that?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Next is Mary Taylor.
She's here, Your Honor.
Ms.
Hello?
Taylor, you've charged with failing to stop at a stop sign. What is your plea? Guilty, not guilty, or no low contendere?
No low contendere.
Is she eligible for a no low plea? Do you understand that by entering into the plea, you're doing this without the assistance of a lawyer?
Yes.
And do you also understand that by entering into the plea that you are waiving your right to a trial?
Yes.
Are you entering into the plea freely and voluntarily?
Yes.
The court will accept your NOLO plea. The fine is $175. Can you pay that in 2 weeks, or do you need a longer period of time?
Yes, I can do it.
Excuse me?
I can pay it.
Okay, they will get your plea form where you've entered a NOLO plea, and then they will give you a 2-week agreement. Do you understand that?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you very much. If you'll please have a seat. Next is Mario Tejada Fernandez.
Mario Tejada Fernández, si está, por favor, acérquese al podio.
That one is gonna be reset per Attorney Woods.
Okay, yes.
Your Honor, may I be excused? I think that was the last case.
Certainly
for
can,
interpret.
thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
Next is Darcy Thomas.
Darcy Thomas, FTA, Your Honor.
Next is Andy Tran.
Andy Tran, FTA.
Next is Jordan Wade.
Wade is here.
Thank you.
How you doing?
How are you doing, Mr. Wade? You've been charged with following too closely. What is your plea to that? Guilty, not guilty, or nolo contendere?
Guilty.
Young man, do you understand that by entering into the guilty plea, you're doing this without the assistance of a lawyer?
Yes, sir.
And do you also understand that by entering into the plea that you are waiving your right to a trial?
Yes, sir.
Are you entering into the plea, young man, freely and voluntarily?
Yes, sir.
Young man, the fine amount is $260. Are you able to satisfy that today? I mean, within 2 weeks, or do you need a longer period of time?
Do longer.
Oh, that's okay.
Right. Young man, you will be placed on probation for 12 months. Your probation will end the moment the fine is paid. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
You will be placed on pay-only probation. Please make sure that you comply so that you're not brought before the court on a probation revocation calendar. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any questions?
No, sir.
All right, young man, if you'll please have a seat, they'll give you your plea form.
All right, appreciate it.
Thank you. Next is Korean Williams.
Korean Williams, FTA, Your Honor.
Next is Jermaine Wilson.
Wilson, he's here.
Mr. Wilson, you're charged with driving without a valid license. What is your plea? Guilty, not guilty, or nolo contendere?
Not guilty.
Thank you. Sir, do you want me to keep this case here in Forest Park, or would you prefer that it be bound over to Clayton County where you're eligible for a jury trial?
We can keep it.
All right. You are waiving your right to a jury trial. The case will remain here in Forest Park. You've entered a not guilty plea, which means when you come to ship court, you'll show you had a valid license at the time that you were stopped. Is that correct, sir?
Yes.
Okay. He's entering a not guilty plea. Let's give him his plea form, and then we'll give him his new court date.
Thank you.
That takes care of everyone on the calendar that I have. Is there anyone else in the courtroom?
No one, we have, we gotta at least call the old docket.
All right. Christopher Bailey.
That's me, Your Honor.
All right. That's represented by counsel. Have you all negotiated a plea on that one, or is it a reset?
We need a pretrial with Your Honor, Your Honor.
You've already pre-tried it with the prosecutor?
Yes, Your Honor, and now we need you.
You need to talk to me? Okay. Well, what do you want to tell me?
Your Honor, we have a bit of a situation on our hands and
What is the situation?
if I might be able to propose perhaps like a stipulated bench trial
Okay.
and get a basic rules.
Well, you got to first be found not guilty.
Well, that's why it's stipulated, Your Honor. Stipulated to be found not guilty on the other and guilty on the basic rules.
What are you talking about?
It's a creative solution, Your Honor, that
For whom?
we've come to for efficiency purposes and satisfying oversight of
Okay,
particular.
well, let me ask you this question, because you know, my generation always has this basic question. What are you trying to achieve? What is the overall objective? And once you tell me that, let's see if we can work back from there. What is your overall objective?
We're trying to get a basic rules for a CDL driver, Your Honor.
Okay. He needs to just have a trial. I need to hear the facts, and then I need to make a decision then. That is the most prudent way to do this.
Your Honor, but we run the risk of potentially being found guilty if it's not stipulated beforehand.
You do know with these violations and with the way that this is regulated, the most prudent way to handle this is to have the trial. I understand you in the prosecutor's position. Let's have the trial and let me make the decision, because anything short of that creates problems with the prosecutor and for you and your client.
Okay.
Does that make sense to you?
Yes, Your Honor, I guess you can put us on a bench trial calendar.
Let's
then.
put it down for a bench trial, and at the beginning of the bench trial, you all can make your motions and let me know what's going on, and then just let me hear the facts.
Okay.
And then let me make that call, because anything short of that is a problem, and you know it.
All right, Your Honor.
Yeah. But tell him I said he has a wonderful lawyer, and I like your creative idea.
Thank you, Your Honor. I try, every
Well,
day.
let me tell you something. You have done a wonderful job. But for some, for this particular matter with what you're achieving, it's best to just let the process run itself.
Yes, Your Honor.
And let me say this to you. In letting the process run itself, stop assuming the worst.
Okay, all right. You haven't steered me wrong yet, Your Honor.
Well, all I'm saying is I'm gonna be fair. I'm gonna do it based on the law, but people are so fearful of this process, and I just think the process works.
Okay.
No problem.
So y'all can let me know when you want to have this bench trial. So whenever I'm here every Wednesday it's probably gonna need to be on the 8 o'clock calendar.
Okay.
So let's just wait to make sure that we have the police officer here, and we'll take it from there.
All right, sounds good, Judge.
Now, you had another matter. So what we're gonna do is enter him a not guilty for that bench trial. And the other matter, what are we doing with that one?
Judge, I was hopping back on because I wanted to get see if we had a history on him before we.
What is our other client's name?
It's Pimienta, which is Pimienta. He is on 19 of the new calendar.
Okay.
At the very bottom.
Right. Okay.
He has a Kentucky license. Let's see.
Do we have any history on him?
Give me 1 second.
There's not gonna be any history on him from Kentucky. So I propose that no history be taken as good history and we move forward.
Okay, well, that's all it can be taken.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes.
Is that the same as no news is good news?
That's what she's saying.
Right.
If you don't have any way of accessing it's neutral news. I mean, it's nothing.
So we're gonna amend that one to a basic rules.
Okay.
Enter a plea.
That's correct.
Is this gonna be a PIA or is he here today?
No, he's present, Your Honor.
Oh, okay. All right, so we're gonna amend this to a basic rules, and that's gonna be the negotiated plea. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And what did you all agree to regarding the fine, if any?
155.
Okay. Can I please this is a young man?
Yes, he's coming, Your Honor.
Okay.
I think so. I think I do.
All right, young man, it's my understanding you're entering a guilty plea to a basic rules violation. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Do you understand that by entering into the plea that you're doing this with the assistance of an excellent lawyer?
Yes, sir.
Do you also understand that by entering into the plea that you are waiving your right to a trial?
Yes, sir.
Sir, and are you entering into this plea freely and voluntarily?
Yes, sir.
And sir, do you believe it is in your best interest to enter into the guilty plea to the basic rules violation?
Yes, sir.
Counsel, is there a factual basis that supports this charge?
Yes, Your Honor.
And do you and the prosecutor stipulate to the facts?
Yes, Your Honor.
The court will accept the guilty plea to the basic rules violation. The fine amount is $155. And counsel, when can he satisfy that? Does he need 2 weeks or does he need probation?
No, Your Honor, we'd ask that he be permitted to pay it today since he's out of state.
All right, well, I'm gonna let him work that out with Ms. Green, okay?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, and that will take care of both of your matters, okay?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Wonderful, always good to see you.
Well, Judge, have a good one.
All right, take care. Next, Ms. Green, I'm gonna say Brendan Flannery.
FTA, Your Honor.
Thank you. Next is James Rankhorn.
FTA as well.
Thank you. Next is Timmy Reed.
I got an email about that. I'm gonna say FTA, but I may have had an entry sent to me. I have to verify that.
Okay, and next is Montavious Walker.
FTA.
Okay, that takes care of that calendar. Does that take care of everyone on the 1 o'clock calendar?
That is correct.
All right, is there anything that we need to deal with?
Anything we need to do?
We're gonna start recording.
Oh, let me start recording. Hold on.
Okay,
So what was your name again?
General Pimienta, YA.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure he was not Bailey.
No.
Bailey is the one we're resetting. Okay. I got it. That's it.